First, the US President-elect Donald Trump has named Elon Musk to a role aimed at creating a more efficient US government. Musk and the former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy will co-lead the newly created Dept of Govt Efficiency, an entity that is expected to operate outside of government. The move hands more influence to Musk, the world's richest man who donated millions of dollars to help get Trump elected. Brian Quinn has our report.
Two wealthy Trump supporters set to take an axe to federal spending as the U.S. president-elect named Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead a so-called Dept of Govt Efficiency.
These two wonderful Americans will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies.
Take over, Elijah!
Musk, the world's richest man, pitched in some $200 million to Trump's campaign efforts. That bet has paid off big time. His net worth has risen by some $70 billion since Trump's victory. On the campaign trail, he claimed that the U.S. federal budget could be cut by at least $2 trillion, but without a clear plan for how.
Well, we just take a look at all the federal agencies and say, do we really need whatever it is, 428 federal agencies?
$2 trillion is more than the entire amount of congressionally approved discretionary spending for fiscal 2024, with the rest of the $6.75 trillion federal budget going to entitlement programs along with interest on the national debt. The new department will not actually be a part of the government, a distinction that spares Musk and Ramaswamy from both Senate approval and congressional oversight, an important exemption given the many potential conflicts of interest involved. Tesla and SpaceX are both subject to numerous federal regulations, meaning that Musk could soon, in effect, be overseeing the very agencies that oversee his companies. Even the new department's acronym, DOGE, has added to Musk's wealth, boosting the price of meme-based cryptocurrency Dogecoin, of which Musk is a frequent promoter.
Well, let's speak on the programme live now to Christopher Featherston. He's a lecturer in international relations at the University of York, where his research partly focuses on the policies of Donald Trump. Good to talk to you today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
What is your initial reaction to the creation of this so-called Dept of Govt Efficiency?
Well, it's a bold start. It's a bold claim to ground on policy, to move in a direction that Donald Trump has referred to previously. But I think we're still a little bit too early to know exactly what will happen now. This is an interesting creation. It's cleverly designed to get around congressional oversight, but at the same time, that does mean that it's a little unclear what the impact will be.
And what about for Musk himself? We know he played a role, didn't he, at least financially, in getting Trump elected. Lots of money was poured in from him. When he took over the running of Twitter, as it was then, he laid off half of the staff at the company. So he does have rather brutal decision-making in business, at least, doesn't he, sometimes, although we don't necessarily know, as you say, how he'll behave once he has a role in government. I'm just interested in how much influence you think the world's richest man will have then on the incoming government?
Well, I think what you pointed out there is crucial, right? That he is the world's richest man and he has a close relationship with Donald Trump so far from the campaign trail. So I think that will be the root of most of his influence when it comes to his role within the new government, because frankly, we still don't actually know how that's going to work. I would be surprised if this creation, this body, department, which is technically not a department, actually has all that much of a greater influence. I would argue that that Elon Musk, will have more of an influence on Donald Trump through his personal relationship rather than through this particular department.
And as I mentioned, Musk is to work with Vivek Ramaswamy on this. And I saw on Musk's own platform, on X as it is now, the Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren pointing out the irony of the fact that we have the Office of Government Efficiency being run effectively now by two people instead of by one. I wonder how you think they'll handle both of them working in it together.
Well, I think that's a very good point. Is this the first case of government overstaffing that they need to deal with? I would say it's going to be a clash of personalities. These two are big characters, big prominent personalities and egos. So how well they are going to get along, it remains to be seen. But also, this is one of those positions where actually the amount of time spent in the office, should we say, will be rather minimal. Both will be continuing with a large part of their other work. Musk especially has an incredible workload given all of his roles. So precisely how they're going to work together remains a little bit unclear, but I would be surprised if Vivek Ramaswamy is quiet in comparison to Musk. So, we're going to get a lot of announcements about this. Whether we'll get actual policy is something that we have to wait and see.
And look, just to try and get a sense of what this department might actually do, we've been taking a look at some ideas that Ramaswamy has had in the past. They include dismantling the Department for Education and even the FBI. I mean, could any of that really actually be on the cards now?
Well, I think as a law and order president, Donald Trump would be incredibly unlikely to remove the FBI. It doesn't look great if you're trying to say that we need to reclaim the streets, bring back law and order, and you get rid of the federal agency responsible for a large part of the visible crime fighting. I think in terms of getting rid of departments, it has been mentioned repeatedly by Republican candidates, and it's something that the Republican Party has mentioned fairly frequently when it comes to election campaigns. And yet we've not really seen much of this within modern history. So as much as it is repeatedly referred to, whether this is something we'll actually see, there is an enormous question mark over that. We've seen calls for the Department of Energy, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Education, all of these things to be gotten rid of. Precisely how that would function, where some of those functions that are deemed essential compared to the inessential workings of the rest of it would be worked out, how they'd make those changes actually come to fruition. It remains all up in the air. I don't think we have a clear plan, and I would be very surprised if we see any action such as removing a federal agency or getting rid of a government department within the next year at least.
And just a final question for you. I saw today that the Guardian newspaper has announced that it's quitting Musk's platform X, Twitter as it was, over what they say is disturbing content on the platform. I mean, I just wonder more broadly whether you think this is sort of the beginning of the end of X as a media platform, because it has become increasingly full of fake news, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. I think this is a key point. It's interesting that this is the point that we've said this is the level of fake news that is too much. This is something that has been common on the platform for a while, especially after Elon Musk's campaign to free the speech on X, or Twitter, as most people still think of it. So it would be interesting to see this as potentially the downfall of X, potentially the downfall of Elon Musk's role there as well. I think it's also broader than that, though, that this is a point where we could see the potential conflict of interest here of having someone who is a media company owner, apologies, a media company owner having a key role in government. That is a massive conflict of interest. So that, again, could also add to calls for people to boycott X. I don't know whether it's going to happen, but it's certainly a crisis point for X to negotiate, at least.
Christopher Featherston talking to us there from the University of York. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much.